So good old Lucian aka Corpse Midget, has decided to put on his big boy Vern Troyer pants and take on the looming beast that is atheism, and its so-called damaging effects.
I think it's ridiculous how vocal and aggressive atheism has become over the past decades.
Well, I get the criticism of aggressiveness, but how is being vocal a bad thing? I guess you'd prefer if people you didn't agree with just shut the fuck up and sat at the back of the bus, huh?
And the most upsetting part is the audacity of the militant atheists who claim that religion is the central source of evil and that an atheist society would be an ideal society.
Well, I don't speak for everyone, but I never claimed that religion was the source of all evil or that atheism would bring about a utopia. But I do claim that without religion, people would have one less insane reason to kill each other. In an atheistic world, there's still conflict. It's just not over make-believe bullshit. And I find that atheists tend to have a sense of personal responsibility that hardcore theists instead pawn off to deities and devils.
And that they are not being taken seriously because the majority of humans on Earth are religious. Oh really? If atheism is so neglected and oppressed, if atheism is the underdog of beliefs, and its supporters are so persecuted by religious people, let's see why that is.
Okay, Corpse Midget, I'm gonna let you finish. But before you get started, let me throw a few statistics out there first. 51% of Americans say they're less likely to vote for an atheist in any political office. There are laws that prohibit atheists from running for office in at least 6 states. 45% say atheists can't have any morals, and 67% wouldn't trust an atheist to run a daycare. On a scale of 0 to 100, Americans polled gave atheists a 41 compared to Jews, Catholics, and evangelicals whom all scored in the 60s. And there are organizations that still get away with banning atheists, such as the Boy Scouts.
Maybe it has done something wrong? Let's look up online the damaging effects of atheism. Oh wait, what's this? Didn't I type the harmful effects of atheism into the search bar? Yes, I did. Then what's up with these results here? The harmful influence of religion on society? A list of harmful effects of Christianity? Harmful effects of religion? Would we be better off without religion? What's all this?
Well, I think it's self-explanatory. What you looked up was so absurd that Google had no idea what the fuck you were talking about and tried correcting it for you.
Let's see what the replies are. Atheism itself hasn't harmed or benefited society because it's not a religion. Atheism hasn't done anything to or for society as it is merely a lack of belief. Atheism has no creed or holy book. Well, of course not. They couldn't fit into one book all the nonsensical opinions about nothing happening to nothing, which made it explode into everything, which rearranged itself because of laws that created themselves so that self-replicating bits of matter can turn into conscious humans.
It's not an indictment of atheism, it's an admission of extreme scientific ignorance. First off, atheism makes no claims about how the universe began. It just claims that there is no sufficient evidence to believe that there's a God. Secondly, science doesn't make the oversimplified claim that the universe just appeared magically without any fucking cause. There are scientific principles at play that suggest that in a closed universe, the net energy could be zero, meaning quantum fluctuations could essentially cause the universe to pop into existence. I suggest you read a book called A Universe from Nothing by Lawrence Krauss. He can explain it a lot better than I ever could.
Atheism has no priests or interpreters of the divine truth. That's like saying that Burger King doesn't have Big Macs. No, they don't. They have the Whopper, which is food in the same shape as the Big Mac but different in structure. So yeah, atheism doesn't have priests that interpret the absolute truth. But they do have spokespersons who interpret the scientific truth and choose between the various more or less contradicting scientific theories, just like Christians contradict each other about various aspects about the Bible.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, and it's hard as fuck to understand what he's saying. I'm gonna go buy him a decent mic just so I can have an easier time ripping apart his videos. It's a bit of a stretch to compare priests to advocates of science. He makes the distinction himself between preachers of absolute truth and scientific truth, yet continues with the false equivalency. Scientific truth is that which best explains a phenomenon given the evidence. There is no claim that it's infallible, and it's based in reality. The absolute truth of religion claims that it knows the unknowable, and things are not based in evidence at all, and that it's incontrovertible by virtue of its own claim. You're talking semantics if you're claiming that an advocate of science giving an oral dissertation is equivalent to a priest giving a sermon about old fairy tales. Sure, they're both a room full of people listening to a speaker, but that's where the similarity ends. When scientists contradict each other, it's based on evidence, and it's about undiscovered territory. It's about being intrepid. Christian sects contradict each other because they've all done separate book reports on a vague and unreliable tome of bullshit that is not only unverifiable, but makes claims that are easily disproven.
Atheists have no required beliefs at all. False? Atheists have to believe that there are absolutely no gods out there whatsoever, otherwise they wouldn't be atheists but rather agnostics.
Well, I'd say that the definition set forth by some random goofball on Quora isn't the most accurate, but he's not entirely wrong either. An atheist simply believes that there's no compelling evidence of any gods. Agnostic, in the colloquial sense, is taken to mean someone who's simply unsure, a cowardly fence-sitting position. But agnostic actually deals with the ability to know. And by that definition, everyone is agnostic, because nobody can actually know. We can only postulate, and I rather postulate based on evidence than wild speculation about imaginary characters. So in that way, one can be an agnostic atheist. I don't know there isn't a god, but I don't believe in one, because the very notion is fucking absurd.
And the most absurd aspect of all is that they claim that religion offends them. God offends them. How is this possible? If you don't even believe God exists, how can he offend you? Who's more irrational? A person who believes in a God he doesn't see, or a person who is offended by a God he doesn't believe in?
They aren't offended by a god that doesn't exist, dipshit. They're offended by the concept. I'd still say that a guy who believes in shit with no evidence is more irrational than the guy who's offended by a concept. I, for one, wouldn't use the word offended, but I would say I'm perturbed by the fact that so many people subscribe to an ill-conceived notion. It's bothersome that human progress has been repeatedly impeded by religious dark ages. It's disheartening that anyone would worship a god that, whether or not it exists, is clearly an egomaniacal sociopath.
Is this a recent thing that has blown up in the past couple of decades? No, not really. Social studies show that atheists have always had a say in social organization. In America, school prayer was removed from the public education system by slowly changing the meaning of the First Amendment through a number of court cases over several decades, starting with the early 1960s. In 1962, school prayer was removed in the USA, and here's what happened since then. Teenage pregnancy rates have gone up to 500%. Teenage mental problems and suicides have increased dramatically. Violent crimes have risen steadily. The SIT scores have steadily declined. The divorce rate has skyrocketed. And according to government records, the top 7 leading problems in American schools, ranked in order from 1st to 7th, have changed from D's to D's.
Yep, and that had nothing to do with the ebb and flow of society, huh? That was clearly because of prayer in school? Correlation does not imply causation, you fucking fuck. Here's a graph that shows that consumption of sour cream correlates with motorcycle accidents. Are you stupid enough to believe that they're connected? Good luck tying any of that ill behavior to a lack of prayer in schools. And have you ever met any Latino gangsters? They pray all the fucking time. They got crosses and Virgin Marys painted on the guns they use to kill people. So don't give me this bullshit that talking to your imaginary sky daddy makes you a better person.
Coincidences? I think not. Deny it as much as you want. Judeo-Christian values have helped societies bloom and develop harmoniously.
Get out the house more, bud. There are lots of societies that have done just fine without any exposure to the Judeo-Christian ethics. Which, by the way, were all plagiarized from other older religions that were holding up society long before yours.
Start pushing these away and replace them with an atheist framework, and you get these results.
Now, I don't know what it's like wherever the fuck this guy's from, but America itself was founded by mostly atheists and agnostics who went out of their way to ensure that it was a secular nation back in the 1700s. The reason the 1940s was like that was because of authoritarianism, not religion. Teachers were allowed to beat the kids in school with a paddle, and nobody said shit. Beating people gets results, but the ends don't justify the means. I think we all agreed to that after World War II. If religion was this beacon of morality, then why was bigotry and beating your wife and kids still big in the 40s?
So before you rush to reject Christianity because your favorite online celebrity or artist or writer dismisses God's existence, how about you give God a chance and decide for yourself whether he's real or not? And what better chance could you give him than reading his book? Go find a Bible today and start reading it. God bless you.
This fucking guy doesn't understand that most atheists were ex-theists who had the fortitude to cut through the tribalism and wishful thinking and see the truth. I also encourage you to actually read the Bible without anyone else to interpret it for you. It's probably the best tool to make an atheist.